A small to medium business though, what's in the budget? What can they say that's for us?
Today I'm sitting with Robert Dwyer, our local MP, who has just returned from Sydney, from sitting in Parliament.
Just for the week, we had a budget week this week, Kylie. Thanks for the invitation, and it was great being down here. My second budget, very exciting.
Second budget. Well, you know what? I'm going to pretend that I read through this.
Okay.
But honestly,
I'll ask a few questions.
oh no, please don't. Like, I've got a couple of tags, but let's not dive too deep, because I think one of the things that, particularly for our members, it's about really pulling it back. What I would love to know is how it impacts us. So yes, it's a budget, it's rolled out through New South Wales, but what does it mean to our businesses here on the ground?
Oh, that's
And strip it right back. Like, I want you to treat me like I'm a 6-year-old.
That's a very good question. If I was talking like that, I'll just talk about your home style budget, right? So everyone's got a budget at home. You've got your income coming in, you've got the expenses going out, the children, the car, the insurance, your registrations, all of those expenses go out. And at the end of the day, you're hoping to have a bit of money in the pocket so you can have a nice holiday or prepare for a rainy day in case something bad happens or goes wrong. That's what the state budget's about. But we're looking at the state's significant issues. There's infrastructure issues, and then there's that social fabric style issues. The budget for home is not quite as much as the state budget. State budget is about $114 billion, but they deliver a lot. We deliver police, we deliver roads, we deliver first responders, health, education. There's some very significant items there. And the New South Wales government is actually the biggest employer in the Southern Hemisphere as an individual. So there's a lot of staff involved in that as well, a lot of ongoing costs.
Wow. I would not like to be in charge of that budget, let me tell you. And that's the thing too, it's all well and good to sit back and criticise it, but to really understand it, I think that's where a lot of us miss it. Like, we're not behind the fence, we don't get to see exactly where all that money goes. And so I've got a big question. Like you said, you were sweating bullets going into the first budget, and of course it feels a little bit more familiar going into the second, but you were going in with some big things that you were asking for. How did you feel when you went in and asked for those things?
Good question, Kylie. I feel a lot more confident this time going into the second budget. So I thought about those things which we have in our electorate, which despite being in opposition, there's $550 million worth of infrastructure coming into the Port Macquarie electorate. We've got a $265 million upgrade for the hospital, the flyover at Harrington, new police station coming into play. Lord Howe Island's got some critical infrastructure coming to that as well. So there's quite a number of things that I want to make sure we're in the budget. And the budget will show they don't get all spent this year, they get spent over the time it takes to construct. So there's $121 million in this budget, which we've gone through, saying that that's ongoing funding, so they're going to continue with those works. And that's really essential because the growth of Port Macquarie, one of the top 10 growing electorates in the state, the infrastructure has to go with it. Then obviously we've been out beating our drum as hard as we can about Wrights Road, about Kawara water supply, and about the waste treatment plant as well. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the budget for that. And I'm disappointed upon that, absolutely disappointed. But the other item we've got to remember is it's commotion and confidence when you go into constructing those items. So they'll often put it in a bit more of another patch, because if they tell us how much they're expecting it to cost, and the persons who go to tender then will say, oh, that's $120 million or whatever, I'll just put my fee in at $120 million.
Yeah,
so
that makes a lot of sense.
So I was a bit prepared for that this time. I've only been in my role for a couple of months before the last budget. And the other key thing that the budget does is that social fabric in our society. The staffing, that's in there. The increase in wages are all in there. The first responders, all that is in there, which is fantastic. But the other items obviously are things like domestic violence, Parkinson's disease, mental health. We needed to make sure they were in there and wanted to see some increases in funding. So we've been advocating for that for quite some time as well. Amazing to see that domestic and family violence funding has increased by 50%, which is fantastic.
That's amazing.
And Kelly Lamb from the Liberty Domestic and Family Violence Services was down there. She was in the gallery. She thought it was quite amazing because of the question time, because I had a chance to catch up with her afterwards. She's so happy with that extra additional funding. So that is going to be great for the Port Macquarie electorate.
Great. And so what does it then flow onto business then?
Yeah, so Kylie, business often doesn't grind down often to business, but in this case it has, the cost of living crisis we're going through in the state, in the country, throughout the whole world is trying to be targeted in this budget. So they've looked at a couple of things. The Coalition put a couple of proposals forward, and in particular about registration and reducing that by $100. The Labor government has picked that up, and in fact they've improved it a bit too. Under the National Coalition Party, it was going to be pay your registration, then go for the $100 rebate. The Labor said just take it straight off. Great, right? Fantastic.
Yeah, that's good.
You're only as good as your opposition, so that's a good thing.
Yes, that's it.
There's also been a freeze on workers' comp. That freeze is going to be effective for 2 years. So back to running a business. I ran a business for over 30 years, and whilst we only turned over around $15 million, things like insurances, wages, all those costs just continue to add up. Superannuation. So,
and that's what we're hearing out on the street too. That's huge,
yeah.
and people are worried. They just don't know what's coming at them. They don't know how to budget for it. They don't know where to find the extra money, which means you might have to put your prices up because your payroll's going up.
Yeah.
And so how do we then balance that out? Because then people may not go and purchase things because it's too expensive, or people will be seen as price gouging because of what's happening. All of those sort of things. So how do we get around that? What are we going to do?
It's a very good question. Some of these questions are not just state driven; they're federal driven as well. But the wages are going to go up by 4.7% from the 1st of July. That not just impacts your wages, it impacts your superannuation, that impacts your workers' comp. It's just got a significant flow-on effect. So people are going to have to be, and a fuel crisis we're in, it's just going to flow on. There's going to have to be some flexibility in pricing, unfortunately, for the consumers. There was a bit of a pay increase coming through, so hopefully the consumers just going to have to understand that to provide those items, to provide those matters, prices are just going to have to move a bit in that regard. So
really our position is better.
Well,
we're doing this.
It's kind of doing a bit of that.
Doing that.
And when you add on top of that inflationary increase, which is higher than what we targeted by the Reserve Bank, so they've put interest rates up to counter inflation, but inflation hasn't been reduced enough yet either, so it's going up. So everything you buy as a business is also going up.
That's right.
So look, the only answer in that regard, I believe, is that we're going to have to pass some of that on to consumers.
Yeah, I think cost cutting is exactly where it needs to be. Like for each business, like really now is the time to go in and just look at where you can cut all of those, like just scaling things back a little bit on those expenses.
Hopefully not too much on the wages.
Not the wages, no, but for look at your subscriptions. Look at the things that it ticks over. It just comes out of your account that you may not have looked at for a little while.
Absolutely. And the really good news in this budget, details we're still waiting for, Business Connect is going to be resurrected. So if you are a business and you are out there struggling and you're concerned about what to do, where can we get a bit more expertise, Business Connect is coming back.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what that is?
I can. So Business Connect is run by the state government. You ring up, it's free, and you say, I need a hand with my cash flow. I need a hand with my insurances. I need to shop around for this. And there's people on the other end of that line who have lots and lots of experience in business that'll help you to present a cash flow or a model for more funding or for loan or to reduce your debt or to help run your business. They will freely look over your whole business as a holistic view and as free. And then they'll come back with some bits of advice on that and I'll continue to work with you. It's a great project.
Is that a limited phone call? Like, do you get 3 a year? Do you get unlimited?
My understanding is unlimited, but I'd like to double check on fact check that one. It cost the state government last year $10 million to offer that service, so I believe for that reason that it is ongoing. And I don't think enough people know about that. It was taken out in the last budget, but we rallied really hard and it's back, but it's awaiting the technical detail.
Fantastic. That's going to be very, very valuable. And so Business Connect is being resurrected. How do you see that helping small business? Like, what's the impact going to be?
It's going to give them a bit more reassurance, a bit more confidence. 6,200 businesses went out of business last year, and we're worried moving forward all those increased costs we talked about earlier, that's only going to increase. Small business makes up 97% of businesses in New South Wales. It's significant, and the state government needs to look after those people and needs to look after those businesses. There's 1 million of those businesses in New South Wales, and Business Connect hopefully will be able to help in those times when they're sitting up, not getting any sleep at night, worrying about what's going to happen in the next few weeks.
I hope there's some good people on the end of those phones.
It's a lot of experience.
Yeah, fantastic. So Robert, payroll tax, let's touch on that. So could you please explain to our members what that is?
Wow, it's a tax on your wages. It's an extra addition to your wages. It's 5.45% of any wages that are over $1.2 million a year. Now, back when that first started, many years ago, tens of years ago, that was a reasonable amount of money. These days, $1.2 million, yeah, it's a lot of money, but when you've got 10 or 20 staff, you're hitting that limit. So it brings to the state government $15 billion a year. That's how much of a tax it is. So instead of saying your wages are going up and your super's going up and your workers' comp going up, we're going to throw another 5.45% on top of that. It's complicated and it's painful. If you're a small-ish to medium-sized business, you don't have extra additional admin staff to look after and administer this. You've got to add up how many staff you have, what their wages are going to be. You take off anyone who's an apprentice or anything along those lines that might help to reduce that expense. There's a bit of a benefit there, but it's complicated to do. It's projected to go up this year by another $1 billion. So they're anticipating more businesses, more expenses, more red tape for those businesses. This isn't going to be political, but the coalition has a huge overhaul coming that way, and we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Look, I guess what that means is when somebody's in growth mode, they're now looking at their books going, can we afford to grow our business? Can we afford to go and put extra staff on? Or do we stay where we are? Which then impacts how many people are employed, in what roles, all those sort of things.
It does. There's a massive multiplier effect there, Kylie. And not only that, if we're not employing people, if we're not engaging with that private sector who are not then investing back into the economy, then we're in dire straits. And the rest of the budget, the income part, we've talked a lot about expenses, but we need income, and that doesn't increase. If we don't have all of those taxes coming in, those businesses being strong, we don't have a strong economy.
Goodness. All right. Okay, so I want to bring it back to home base. I want to talk about our greater Port Macquarie region. Look, I know that we've talked about the greater budget, right? There's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there.
And I'm not going to read that.
No,
and nor is any small to medium business, I don't think.
It's complicated. The good news is, for the Port Macquarie electorate, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. So
it's very
skinny. Yeah, it is. Well, it is skinny.
Is it?
But there's $121 million worth of money in that. So it talks about health, education and transport, all the state government things, police, state emergency services, fire services, roads, the infrastructure projects that we have coming this way, which I touched on a little bit earlier. And it shows there's $43 million there for the Lord Howe Island projects. Essential energy, there's an additional $23 million coming to the Port Macquarie electorate, which I haven't got the details on yet, but I think we're talking about poles and wires and all that sort of stuff in that space there as well, which again is great for the Port Macquarie economy. Yeah. The good news about this $121 million of infrastructure coming to the Port Macquarie is there's a multiplier effect there of about 2.5. So that means it's our wages, we've got to feed these people, they've got to be housed, and they're then hopefully going out and being part of their nightlife, they're buying furniture, they're buying clothing, all those things that the other people in Port Macquarie are providing to these people. So that's still quite significant in that part for the budget for the Port Macquarie electorate. As I touched on earlier, there's quite a lot coming to that social fabric as well. Domestic and family violence delivered by Liberty in the Port Macquarie area. It is funded for 400, to roughly deal with about 400 cases each year. Last year it delivered 1,600. And that is untenable. So this is where some of that funding is coming in.
Goodness. So for small to medium business though, what's in the budget? What can they say that's for us?
They're hopefully looking at a couple of those cost of living reductions that we have. The reductions in registration on cars, and there's a lot given, unfortunately, to the Greater Sydney, the metropolitan areas, where they've frozen the cost of the Opal card. They're giving a $50 rebate on tolls. No impact on the regions. And unfortunately, we're beating the drum pretty hard on this. And again, I'm not doing political here, but there's going to be a lot of campaigning coming up. There's 13% of infrastructure delivered to regional New South Wales, but we hold 25% of the population. And that is untenable. That's just not fair. So we're calling for a significant change in that space.
Yeah, I did see that the transport side or the road side, it's all about the repair of roads, etc., from weather or natural disaster kind of things. It's not necessarily for our rights road, and we worked really, really hard on getting that on the table. And yes, things are moving forward, and that's really exciting.
It is, and I haven't given up on rights road.
Yes,
Absolutely,
I know.
And I did catch up with the minister when I was in Parliament after the budget, and we touched on this briefly. And the planning is still done, so that's the good news. We've just got to have to look at securing the funding, and as I said earlier, they don't want to release exactly what that's likely to be at this point in time.
That's great. All right. So, Robert, I also want to take this opportunity. We've got the Shadow Treasurer, Scott Farlow.
Yes.
I got that right, didn't I?
You did. Scott's an absolute champion.
Yeah, so he's coming to Port Macquarie on the 7th of July. Business New South Wales have invited our members to go along to a breakfast that they're holding at Port City Bowling Club from 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 till 9.
Right.
So what will people expect, what will our members, if they turn up, what should they expect to hear or learn from
Scott? Scott is an absolute champion. He's the Shadow Treasurer, and he knows all about this thing. This is the bit that he loves, lives and breathes, the expert in that field. He will then be able to tell us what is, if you didn't get enough out of the detail of what I sort of did as a holistic approach, and you want to grind down to the detail, he'll be able to provide all those details. I will too, but not the podcast right now.
Yeah.
But he will give you a lot more of that. And he also gives reassurance about what we're looking forward to moving forward as well.
Great. And will it be question time? Like, he's not just
Yes.
going to talk to the audience, he's going to be back and, it's going to be interactive, right? Because there's
Definitely.
nothing worse than just having somebody just speak to your face and not have that opportunity to ask a question that's really burning for them.
No, we're going to ask him to give an overview of the budget, where we're sitting at, moving forward, and what we're likely to be seeing in the not too distant future. And then he will definitely be there for question time. I'm hoping to have Peter there, I'm hoping to have Rod there, and myself.
Yep.
More than happy to do that.
Can you please give us one hot tip? So for the members that are sitting there watching this and they're thinking, I don't know what the future looks like for me. I don't know what the next financial year, like people have done their budgets, but now things have changed within that budget. So they've now got to go and revisit that themselves, as in their business budget. What's one big fat hot tip that you could give to our local business community?
Tough question, Kyle. There's a lot of tips there. It is very tough times we've been going into. We talked about those issues earlier about the rising costs, rising interest rates, rising expenses of insurance and that sort of thing. As a person who ran a business for over 30 years, my hot tip would be, if you're in that space, if you're a bit concerned, even if you're not and you're going, things are going okay, wouldn't mind someone else to have another look at my business who's totally independent, reach out to Business Connect. That would be my absolute one tip.
Amazing. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know what? We're so lucky to have somebody like you that allows us to come in and have these open conversations and put you on the hot seat and just ask you some questions and you just answer it without questioning anything. So thank you so much.
Well, privileged to be here, Kylie. I'm here for the members of the Port Macquarie Electorate. That's my job and I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.